Previously on The Sims 4 Big Brother. By a vote of 7-3, Joaquin was the third house guest to be evicted, but not before making it official with Angela. For level 3 of this game, we're keeping it simple and classic with one HOH, 2 nominees of their choosing, and 1 person going home. And at the HOH, it was a very quick competition, with almost everyone quitting at the same time, leaving now our official girlfriend of Joaquin, Angela, as our third HOH. The girls solidified their safety with Angela, but Diego also tried to get in there as well, which caused some tension between him, Mark, and the rest of the boys. However, we also had some sexual tension in the house, as Zoe not only hooked up with Akira, but has also hooked up with Mark as well. But they weren't the only ones feeling the love. In fact, we saw a new showmance brewing between Rashida and Dina. Sparks flew in a different kind of way as Cassandra and Kaori argued, but they weren't the only ones arguing as Rohan picked a fight with our HOH Angela. Of course, not the best thing to do right before nominations, and with Angela being able to nominate anyone without limitations, she of course nominated Rohan and the one house guest who has nominated her previously, Mark. But of course, we still have the power of veto. Will nominations change or will they stay the same? Find out now on The Sims 4 Big Brother! Alright, welcome back everyone. We are picking up right where we left off, right after nominations, and with Mark and Rohan being up on the block, that also makes them our new have-nots, and the two of them explore their new bedroom. However, this is not the first time for Mark, and he came prepared this time with a mousetrap. They both hope that they'll be able to do some improvements with the have-not room, and maybe it won't be so bad this time around.
Biffy.
Meanwhile, downstairs in the living room, it looks as though the girls, plus Diego, are feeling pretty satisfied since Angela kept her word, kept all the girls and Diego safe. But will she keep her word after the power of veto? We'll have to wait and find out for that, of course. And we see Diego is trying to repay the girls by doing a little bit of housework, as this house has been a bit of a pigsty recently. Of course, no one can really stick around with their alliance for too long in the Big Brother house, and eventually they all decide that it's probably best if they all split up and went different ways. But leave it to Dina and Rashida to stay by each other's side. Upstairs, we see that Zoe is taking this time to bond with the hamster. Originally, I did want to have a twist involving either the hamster or the toilet, but the toilet kept breaking and the hamster kept escaping, so neither of those really worked out for me. The backyard is open, and with the sun high in the sky over Del Sol Valley, most of our house guests flock to enjoy the perfect weather. However, we are having a lot of laundry issues. I gotta say, the laundry pack and the dust pack for me are so buggy, and the whole house is basically just getting covered in piles of laundry. And Diego is still trying to get them all together, but it's a bit of an impossible task. Then we see that Bob is of course back at that horseshoe rack, but instead of being with our nominated boy Rohan, he is with Vanessa and Cassandra, while Kaori enjoys the bar upstairs alone. I feel like that's one of the things that really is missing in the real Big Brother house is alcohol. We need more alcohol. The only two house guests left in the living room are our lovebirds Dina and Rashida, and it looks as though the flirting is still going on. And I love Rohan's little cheeky side eye at them, and he ends up just feeling kind of awkward and like he's in the way and just turns around, and I just find that really funny.
Oh, Carzini.
I feel like, I don't know, I maybe could have predicted Zoe with one of the guys, but I honestly really didn't see Rashida and Dina coming, personally. I don't really know why. Did you guys predict this happening? What do you guys think about this showmance that's brewing? And we see that they are actually finally sharing their first kiss right as Kaori comes over. But I got a little bit worried. We know that Kaori is a little bit feisty, but instead of starting an argument, she actually applauds it and congratulates them, and even continues flirting with them. Is this going to be another three-way romance? Like, is this Love Island, or Are You the One, or is this Big Brother? I'm kind of confused. And I gotta say, I think we've learned in both of those series that these kind of situations don't really end up going very well. And right now, this love triangle and our other one are actually doing fairly okay, but I'm sure that's not gonna last very long. An argument is actually kind of beginning to form as we see that Rashida is flirting with Kaori, and that's completely acceptable and fine. But when Dina actually tries to flirt with Kaori, she gets straight up denied, and that upsets Rashida. And right when I thought a fight was going to break out, Kaori just sends a few compliments over to Rashida, and Rashida completely forgets about the whole thing. But of course we get that infamous text bubble, and this time it's actually between Mark and Zoe once again. So it looks as though Mark has at least one round above Akira. And this also makes me think of a great question to ask you guys once again. Okay, if you had to pick a love triangle to join or to ship, who would it be? Would it be Kaori, Rashida, and Dina? Or is it gonna be Akira, Mark, and Zoe? Let me know all of that down in the comments as well. And while Mark and Zoe do their thing at what is now their usual spot, a rather unusual group is beginning to form outside. Outside at the picnic table, we see Akira, Dina, and Kaori slowly forming around the table, with Vanessa joining in as well. And it looks as though there's a little bit of flirting going on between Vanessa and Akira. I don't know how Zoe is going to feel about that, if she's going to get upset, but does she even really have the right to get upset with the whole Mark situation going on? And Knox soon comes to get right in the middle of this flirting that's going on, like way to cockblock.
Bahira Imibi. Lenard. Oh.
Dimsay. Cartouche. Whiffa. Greatly pay. The Congaloo.
We see Kaori and Cassandra chatting it up since their argument, and I gotta say it looks all pretty cordial and okay. And I feel like, you know, that you gotta kind of push stuff aside when you're in the Big Brother house, because any kind of conflict is going to cause damage to your game. And I can't exactly tell, as Kaori still kind of looks like she's talking to Cassandra, but she's sending flirts over to someone. Is that her way of like getting past the fight, is to turn it into like enemies to lovers situation? Because if that's the case, I don't think it's going over very well with Cassandra. And Rashida just walked in as well. I don't know, things are getting messy fast. Things aren't just messy in the backyard though, they're actually messy all over the house. When we go over to the bedrooms, we see that Zoe and Mark are still at it, except Bob is right beside them watching in disgust. But I mean, if it was that disgusting, why would he still be sitting here watching? I don't know, but I feel uncomfortable. In the storage room, it looks as though things have not cooled off between Rohan and Angela, and an argument soon breaks out. However, there isn't really much of a point stopping it, as Rohan's already been nominated. The deed has already been done, and this fight, I think, is just going to continue to escalate. And it looks like it's mostly to do with Angela. It almost seems Rohan is almost apologetic, maybe trying to cool things over, but Angela is not having it, and I don't think she got enough satisfaction just from nominating him. She wants him gone. So far, I really feel like Vanessa has mastered getting to know the boys. A lot of the girls are kind of sticking with the girls, and the only one that seems to be getting closer to any of the boys is, of course, Zoe. However, Vanessa kind of understands that you can joke around with the guys, you can have fun with them and pick on them. And, you know, she might toe the line, but it seems to be going over pretty well with Akira, who enjoys a little bit of this back and forth arguments they can have that's intermingled with a little bit of flirting as well. This week, we haven't really seen Bob get too close to anyone. He was bonding with Rohan for a while, but since his nomination, he's really cooled off and has just been keeping to himself. And he is really improving on his skills, but is he going to win any competitions in the future? We'll have to wait and see. Upstairs, it looks as though Diego is trying to do a little bit of damage control with at least some of the guys. He's managed to corner Knox in the upstairs lounge and really try to chat him up and to get him back on his side. He really fell out of good graces with the guys whenever he tried to get safety with the girls. And with that big blow up with Mark, I feel like ever since then, he's been trying to weasel his way back in with the boys as well. It's a really hard game to play, this floater game, being a true floater at least, where you're actually actively persuading both sides of the house, and I feel like that's what Diego is really aiming for, and it has worked for some people like June and Andy in real life Big Brother, but it's insanely hard to keep up, and we'll have to wait and see if Diego is able to do it. Possibly from seeing the conversation happen outside with Diego, Angela is not in a good mood. She tries to enjoy some of the luxuries of the HOH room, but I think she really is upset seeing Diego go back and forth, and she tries to go outside and join the little powwow, but it immediately gets broken up, and before she can even confront Diego, he also gets up and leaves. And it does not seem like Angela is too happy about it. If the POV is used, potentially could Diego be the replacement nominee? We'll have to wait and see. Downstairs, Bob waits for the awkward conversation to take place. Again, Bob really hasn't socialized with anyone for most of the day, and the only time he did socialize, it was watching Mark and Zoe woohoo. So he meets up with the two of them and his favorite person, Rohan, to kind of clear the air. I'm sure it's probably a little bit awkward. Bob wasn't too happy about seeing it all, and I think he was kind of just in there protesting because, again, this is his bedroom as well, and they seem to completely understand that. Zoe and Mark give him their apologies, they hope that everything is cool between them, and I feel like they're all leaving with no bad blood.
Bifala Narbal, Vinvet, Yibs, Snubara, Dubna Timfi, Watanini Chaff, Sensibi Kin, Swarspa, Gathara. Uh-huh.
I also find it so weird. I feel like
Swat
Rohan
up,
is
baby.
constantly glitching, and that could be preventing him from actually building relationships in the house. We see that he gets stuck doing tasks, and he's constantly walking back and forth and canceling himself from talking to anyone or doing anything. It's a bit strange. But we're also looking at Kaori cooking up some dinner for all the house guests. And again, dinner seems to be mostly split between girls eating and boys eating. However, Bob is kind of doing what he wants nowadays. One thing he's for sure doing is farting.
Whew.
Rangoya.
Now, things are going to start getting a bit more complicated in the game as weeks go on, so I definitely try to have a lot more house guest footage strategy talk in this week's episode. So, apologies if you think these episodes ran a little bit too long, or if there isn't enough, POV drama sort of stuff, but with all these house guests, I really wanted to have their opportunity to shine and for you to really get to know them, and I hope that this week's episodes kind of helped with that. But anyway, back to what's going on. We actually see Nox and Rashida having a little bit of a private conversation in the corner of the garden, and I kind of like the two of them. Why do I kind of want this to be a final two? I don't know, I kind of see why they would work well together, and I don't know, I feel like it wouldn't necessarily be an alliance that a lot of people would pick up on. Speaking of picking up, we've seen Diego picking up clothes all day today, and once those clothes finally reached the dryer, it caught on fire. Thankfully, we've all experienced this before, and we were able to put the fire out pretty quickly. But, how many times is this gonna happen? I swear I can't have anything in here without it catching on fire. And a little spoiler warning, it's gonna continue to happen. We just gotta cross our fingers that no one dies. So why don't we go ahead, let's gather everyone inside, let's kind of end the whole, autonomous stuff for the day, and let's get straight on into gameplay, because before we can head into the Power of Veto competition, we're gonna have to pick a couple players for the Power of Veto itself, okay? So, of course, we're going to have our HOH Angela and our two nominees, Mark and Rohan, competing. But, of course, each of them is going to be able to pick one additional player. And that player is whoever they're closest to currently. Of course, with about 1 billion neon signs in the house, one of them is going to get burnt out, and it's going to cause total mayhem every time I try to gather everyone together. But after a little bit of extra work, we finally gathered everyone, and we can start picking players for the veto. Now, first up to pick is going to be Angela, and without any twist, she can pick whoever she wants. So why don't we go ahead and look at her relationship statuses with everyone and see just who she is closest to. Alright, and Angela has picked Rashida. I swear, Rashida is making her rounds and trying to get as close to as many people as possible. Go her. But next up, we're going to check out Mark's relationship statuses and see who he's closest to. But I think we all already know the answer to that. And no surprises, Mark, of course, picks Zoe. I mean, after banging her multiple times, you would hope that he's going to pick her in the Power of Veto, and you would also hope that she's going to use it on him if she wins. But we still have one more player to pick, so why don't we look and see who Rohan is closest to? And he has picked Nox, and that's going to be our final player. So our 6 players in the Power of Veto is going to be Zoe, Mark, Angela, Rashida, Rohan, and Nox. Why don't all of you go on and head back to our challenge arena through the backyard, and let's start this Power of Veto competition. Alright everyone, welcome back to Big Brother's Gym. And for this class that you guys have signed up for, you guys are going to compete in the Climb Your Way to the Top Power of Veto competition. And just like the HOH, these rules are fairly simple. When I say go, all of you are going to climb onto your wall, and whichever house guest is able to stay up on the wall the longest wins the Power of Veto. So, you guys all understand? Good. Why don't you go ahead and climb up on that wall and let's get this competition started. Alright, and relatively quickly, our HOH Angela is the first out of the competition. I gotta say, I'm fairly surprised at how long everyone has lasted because not everyone has been spending that quality time in the gym. And one person that definitely hasn't been is Rashida, as she ends up falling and is the second person out of the competition. We are now down to just 4: Knox, Rohan, Mark, and Zoe. And just like that, Mark is out of the competition, shortly followed by Rohan. And then it is a super close photo finish, but ultimately, congratulations Knox. By a couple seconds, you were the winner of this Power of Veto challenge. You now hold the power and are able to remove someone from the block. Why don't we go ahead and gather everyone back into the living room and let's find out what Knox does with the veto. And so far, Knox is kind of killing it in the competitions. This is his 3rd win so far this season, and his 2nd veto win. So, I don't know, he's kind of killing it. He's won the most competitions out of everyone right now, but that could put a target on his back. Alright, it was a little bit easier to gather everyone around this time, but now that we are all here, let's begin the POV ceremony. Now, Angela has nominated Mark and Rohan, however, Knox has just won the Power of Veto, and he can either leave it the same if he's closest to Angela, or if he's closest to either of the nominees, he can take them off the block. So why don't we have a look and see just who he is closest to. And even though Rohan picked Knox, Knox is actually closest to Mark and has decided to use the veto on him. I'm sure if I was Rohan, I would not be too happy with Knox right now. But nevertheless, Mark is now safe and is off the block. However, that does mean that Angela is going to have to name a replacement nominee. And it looks as though Angela is going to break that pact with the girls, and for the 2nd week in a row, Vanessa is the replacement nominee. So that means Vanessa and Rohan, you guys are officially up for eviction, and one of you will be voted out this Friday. But who's it gonna be? I'm honestly so shocked that Nox took down Mark instead of Rohan, and now that Vanessa is up, I really didn't think Angela was gonna put up one of the girls. I thought if she was gonna name a replacement nominee, it would be one of the guys for sure, but wow, if a girl goes home this week, that will be crazy. Who do you want to see go home, Rohan or Vanessa? Let me know down below, and make sure you like, share, subscribe, and all that stupid YouTube stuff. And I'll see you guys for our new eviction episode on Friday. And then we'll be entering level 4 with a brand new twist. I can't wait. See you guys then. Bye.